Are you hard of hearing? You're telling me to live in a small storage shed? Suddenly, my eldest son and his wife, along with their 5 children, came to stay at our house. After indulging in alcohol, they began to hurl insults at me, demanding I leave in disgrace. Hearing this, I was furious and silently began to pack my belongings. Once I had packed everything, I devised a plan and bid them farewell, saying, "Well then, I'll be returning to my parents' house." Ignoring my eldest son Michael's surprised "huh" from behind, I hurried off to my parents' home. I was on a mission to save my grandchildren by seeking help from a certain individual. My name is Elizabeth. This year, I turned 86, having once been one of the top actresses. It feels somewhat embarrassing to call myself a top actress. But I worked so hard during my active years that I take great pride in it. Surely, acting was the thing I worked hardest at in my life. I retired from acting when I reached the retirement age of 65. I wanted to continue working for life, but my husband persuaded me to stop. He proposed, "Why don't we spend our remaining years leisurely together and watch our grandchildren grow?" Moved by his dedicated support, I decided to retire. Since then, I've been living a comfortable life with my husband, occasionally playing Othello with the grandchildren who visit or going out for tea. My husband passed away when I was 66 years old. I was told it was due to heart failure. He had been living with a time bomb in his heart ever since he suffered a heart attack when he was young. The fact that he lived this long without any incidents was considered a miracle by doctors, as he had always been quite healthy otherwise. Our last exchange was the usual "I'll see you tomorrow." Since we slept in separate bedrooms, I didn't notice anything was wrong until the next morning. Of course, I was in tears at the funeral. It was my eldest grandson, Jake, who helped me through the overwhelming urge to follow my husband. "Grandma, I can't replace Grandpa, but we'll be here to support you. Let's live this life together till the end," he said, along with the other 4 grandchildren, taking turns visiting my house. Thanks to their daily visits, I rarely had to spend any time alone. However, one day, even Jake, who visited the most, suddenly stopped coming to the house. It was so sudden. Normally, someone would show up every other day, but then, all of a sudden, no one did. Worried something had happened, I decided to call my son Michael's house. "Hello?" The person who answered was Michael's wife, Emily. I didn't know her well, we had only met at their wedding and my husband's funeral. Without a proper introduction, Michael got married. Before we had a chance to navigate any mother-in-law issues, a grandchild was born, leaving Emily and me in a state almost akin to estrangement. Thinking it wasn't good for the future, I tried inviting her for meals and other things, but she consistently declined. Despite my efforts to reach out, I was continuously turned down, leading me to feel as though I was being deliberately avoided. Since then, I've been distant from Emily. My discomfort around her was significant. Hello. Emily? This is Elizabeth speaking. Elizabeth. How are you doing? In contrast to the octave higher voice that answered the phone, I could tell the warmth vanished instantly upon hearing my name. She responded lazily in a tone lower than her usual speaking voice. Although her attitude hurt me, my reason for calling today wasn't about her. Why hesitate now? Determined, I asked Emily. Lately, I haven't seen Jake and the others around. Is everything okay? I'm worried, are they all right? They're as healthy and active as ever. So, please don't worry. It's just that they've been coming over to your place so often. I thought it might be too much, so I've kept them at home. I was taken aback by her response. Kept them at home? I never said they were a bother. There's no need to worry about that, they're always welcome here. No. They were coming over almost every day, and I didn't want you to think less of my parenting. Please, don't mind it. Emily then made these sarcastic comments. Her words were so unexpected, I couldn't help but respond sharply. I would never think that. Please, don't be offensive. Oh, is that so? I'm terribly sorry. However, the children won't be visiting for a while. Please enjoy your solitude. With that, Emily hung up abruptly, leaving me with the dial tone. I was genuinely taken aback by her remarks. Once again, Emily's aversion to me was evident, though I couldn't understand the cause. What led her to act this way? Did I inadvertently do something to offend her? Our interactions were limited to a few occasions. And even then, we barely communicated. I was left with many unanswered questions. It seemed I would have to forego seeing my grandchildren for some time. This thought left me deeply saddened for the rest of the day. Eventually, Michael reached out to me unexpectedly. "Long time no talk, Mom. I know it's sudden, but can we stay over tonight?" Michael's tone was casual. Was he aware of the recent conversation when he called? I decided to inquire directly. "Just you staying over? Why just me? It wouldn't make sense without Emily. The whole family will be coming." "The whole family? Has Emily agreed to this?" Michael's devotion to Emily was absolute, almost to the point of idolization. Even if Emily was at fault, Michael would justify her actions. In other words, he wouldn't take my side. That's when it hit me. She knows. That's why I'm calling. Emily mentioned something, Mom. Could you ease up on my wife? Michael clearly sided with Emily. Though I expected it, remembering Emily's previous comments only intensified my frustration. I understand you might feel overshadowed by Emily's charm. But let's move beyond petty squabbles. What was he implying? Did he believe my concern was rooted in jealousy over Emily's affection from him? I harbored no fondness for Michael. That feeling vanished the day he married Emily. Such a profound misunderstanding. Feeling a sense of disgust at Michael's words, I fell silent, and perhaps sensing he had gone too far, he seemed to reconsider. Awkwardly laughing, Michael started to bait me by bringing up the names of the grandchildren. "Come on, Jake and the others really want to see you. Please, just for tonight." The moment I heard my grandchildren's names, memories of the last time we met came flooding back. My grandchild left with a smile, saying, "See you tomorrow," as they waved goodbye. How much time has passed since then? My anger dissipated, replaced by a hollow feeling of loneliness. "All right. I'll get things ready, just let me know when you're coming." Typical mom. Thanks, you're a lifesaver. In the end, my desire to see my grandchildren outweighed my reluctance to deal with my eldest son and his wife. Little did I know, this agreement would become my biggest regret. Upon their arrival, Michael and his family made themselves at home as if they owned the place, heading straight for the living room. The grandchildren greeted me politely, and the youngest, Sophie, who was only 14, showed more manners than her parents. This must be thanks to Jake. He once told me during a previous visit. "It seems like Mom and Dad aren't interested in us, so I've been acting like a parent to everyone." At the time, I thought Jake was just being indulgent towards his parents. But seeing this situation, I understood. It wasn't that Michael and his wife were overly dependent on Jake. They likely weren't properly looking after their own children. Jake's role as a surrogate parent was quite literal. In effect, Jake had stepped in as the actual parent, truly caring for his siblings. That must be the case. "Grandma, sorry, okay? Were you all right?" While I was glaring at Michael and his wife, who had rushed to the living room, Jake spoke to me discreetly, ensuring his parents didn't overhear. "Jake. Are you okay? We'll talk about it later. Here's my contact info. I had to get a new phone because the old one was cancelled, so make sure you save this, okay?" Jake slipped a note into my cardigan's front pocket. Suspecting his intentions, I whispered to him. "Did you ask your dad and the others if you could stay here because you wanted to?" It came with a lot of begging and insults. "Dad and Mom are insane. If this continues, my siblings are in danger." His words drained the color from my face. Why should visiting here come at such a cost? Could a son really do such things to his mother? I was skeptical of the story. But then, I unexpectedly noticed an injury on Jake's neck. "Jake, what's that? I'll contact you later, so please read this. Today is the only chance to save my siblings. Please, Grandma, help us." After delivering his message, Jake quickly left to avoid suspicion and joined his parents. I rushed to the bathroom and sent a message to the contact on the note he had given me. Then, acting as if nothing was wrong, I headed to the living room, where Emily was looking at me with dissatisfaction. "Elizabeth, we're guests here, you know? Can't we even get a cup of coffee?" Emily taunted me with a mocking tone. I was seething inside, wanting to yell at them to leave, but I couldn't afford to lose my composure. I couldn't betray the trust of my dear grandchildren who had sought my help in desperation. I had to endure it for now. Reminding myself of this, I resigned myself to being at the mercy of my eldest son and his wife for the day. After a few hours, everyone had finished eating and bathing. Despite the sudden increase to 7 people in a home meant for one, no one offered to help. Of course, the grandchildren tried to assist. But Michael wouldn't allow that. Hey. What are you guys doing? I'm tired from work and my back hurts. Instead of helping Grandma, you should be massaging my back. He's like the boss of Monkey Hill. He makes the vulnerable grandchildren obey him and treats them like his own servants. How many times did I witness this scene throughout the day? I will never forgive this. I can't leave my precious grandchildren in the care of such people. While I desperately thought of a plan and managed the housework, I finally got a chance to take a bath. That's when I received a message on my phone. It was from Jake, listing the details. I was at a loss for words as I read through it. In essence, the message referred to that day. It seems their inability to visit my house started when Emily scolded Sophie, the youngest. The grandchildren had been lying about coming to my house. This was because they would get scolded by Michael and Emily for attempting to visit. On that day, it was Jake who came, but during his visit, Sophie was scolded, leaving marks on her body. Enraged, Jake confronted Michael and Emily fiercely. But the more he stood up for them, the more the weaker granddaughters were scolded, almost as if to make an example of them. Unable to bear seeing them cry and beg for forgiveness, Jake had no choice but to obediently follow Michael and Emily's orders. The terrible acts continued, and whenever Jake showed the slightest displeasure, Michael would fly into a rage. He resorted to physical means to discipline Jake. Feeling helpless, unable to do anything on his own. Desperate for someone to help. Thinking of me, he wondered if meeting me could somehow offer salvation. Pleading with Michael and Emily, Jake begged to see me one last time, no matter what. The message detailed other vile acts they had endured, making me feel sick just reading it. All the grandchildren had marks hidden under their clothes, living in fear of Michael and Emily. They wouldn't let them see me without a reason. They would surely take some action, so Jake urged me to be cautious. The message ended with that warning. Pondering over how to resolve this issue and stepping out of the bath, I saw Michael and Emily drinking heavily. Hey, Mom, you're done already? It would have been nice if you just drowned in the bath. Just kidding. That would be too much trouble to clean up afterward, so never mind. Hey, don't say too much. If she starts crying in her sleep, her wailing will keep us awake. Their vile laughter and mocking of me were unbearable. I couldn't hold back any longer. Deciding on a course of action, I was about to move when Emily said something shocking. By the way, since this house is so small, you should sleep in the storage shed. I stopped in my tracks at her words. Excuse me? What did you just say? Are you hard of hearing? You're supposed to sleep in the storage shed. Perhaps it was the alcohol speaking. Emily glared at me annoyingly, her attitude haughty. And Michael joined in, both of them intent on driving me out of the house. Yeah. We want to spend time as a family without interruptions, so Mom should get the hint and leave. Hearing this, my anger exploded. There was no need to hold back anymore. Michael, a memento of my late husband. I had endured so much, thinking of my husband, but that didn't matter anymore. I would make them regret this. Show them hell, I resolved. Silently leaving the living room, I gathered only the valuables and important items from my room before returning to the living area. Michael and Emily looked surprised to see me with my belongings and regarded me with curiosity. Just as you wished, you can have the house to yourselves. I'm going back to my childhood home, I declared. What? Back to your childhood home? What are you talking about? See you. Michael appeared confused by my pointed statement. Ignoring any response from him, I made my way directly to the door. As soon as I stepped outside, I quickly sent a message to Jake from my phone. Wait for me. Grandma will find a way to save you. After sending just that, I shut my phone. Leaving my house behind, I headed to the home of my youth. Standing before the grand entrance, I inhaled deeply and, with determination, pressed the doorbell. My lady? What's happened? Enough with a my lady, Ethan. Remember, I'm over 80 now. My lady is a title from another time. What are you saying? To me, you'll always be my lady. I'm opening the door now, please hold on. After our brief exchange, Ethan opened the door. I was then welcomed by several butlers, with one woman gazing at me attentively. What brings you here at this time? Couldn't you have visited earlier? It's dull here by myself. You could visit more often, you know. You're as lively as ever, sis. I wish I could borrow some of your vigor. The person expressing her solitude despite her sharp tone is my sister, who succeeded our father as the CEO of the family business. She's the only family I have left. She was there for me throughout my acting career, even when I couldn't see our parents due to various reasons. My sister's stern yet tender support has saved me numerous times, and she remains someone I greatly admire. Welcome back, my lady. Ethan, can we please let go of the my lady? As much as you request, it's ingrained in me. Ah, never mind. It's too much to expect from Ethan, who's so set in his ways, right? This is the Harrington family estate, left by my father, where I returned after retiring from acting. My father passed away shortly before I retired. When I announced my intention to become an actress, he disowned me, telling me not to come back until I was successful, marking our most significant disagreement. But his disownment wasn't out of disapproval. It was his way of pushing me to succeed in the entertainment industry without relying on the Harrington name. Realizing his intent, I threw myself into my career. At 45, I received the Best Actress award. That's when I reconnected with my father, and the estrangement ended, but by then, he was battling a chronic condition, much like my late husband. My father also suffered a heart attack and lived with the constant threat of it worsening, similar to my husband's situation. Both my father and husband were remarkable men. They were strong, yet kind-hearted, often awkward but deeply loving. Shortly after my dear father's death, my mother passed away. Since then, my sister has taken over the family responsibilities and has been safeguarding the Harrington legacy. What's this, arriving at such time? And with luggage, too. This man, Ethan, was my personal butler during my time at the mansion, always looking after me attentively. Now, he's assumed the role of head butler. The once inexperienced Ethan now supports my sister as a competent butler. I need your help, and sisters too. I must rescue my grandchildren. Explain everything that's occurred. Seeing the urgency in my expression, my sister immediately sensed the gravity of the situation and escorted me to the parlor. After I recounted everything, Ethan sprang into action. As my sister listened to my story, she immediately began preparing what was needed. So, I see the situation. But your testimony alone is too weak. Can't we do something? I'll do whatever I can. You said anything, right? Then I'll give you a task only a great actress like you can perform. And that would be? If you fail, you won't be able to get the grandchildren back from that couple. You need to conduct a leading interrogation. Record it and bring it here. That's your mission. Perhaps she was excited about something. With a sly smile, my sister handed me a video camera. Thus, a large-scale rescue operation involving my family was set in motion. With everything prepared, Ethan accompanied me back to my house. The living room lights were still on, indicating that Michael and Emily were likely awake. However, amidst the raucous laughter, I could hear the crying voices of my grandchildren, continuously apologizing for some reason. Worried, I rushed into the house and headed for the living room. What are you doing to them? There, Sophie was on her knees, crying and apologizing, while the other grandchildren, despite being sleepy, struggled to stay awake. Then, I saw Jake, forced to cook in the open kitchen visible from the living room. What, the old hag is back? The eyesore returns. Didn't you leave already? Emily glared at me annoyingly. Michael's gaze was just as fixed and stern. As I inquired about the situation, Emily continued in a slurred speech. I came back because I was worried about them. More importantly, what are you two doing? Why are these children kneeling? And why are the others up at this late time? Explain yourselves. Do you even know what time it is? I gestured towards the clock, ensuring everyone could see the time. Shut up. It doesn't matter what time it is. It's ridiculous for the kids to go to bed before the parents. Exactly. Who's going to take care of us after we've been drinking if the kids go to bed first? We're raising them to take care of us, otherwise. What's the point? These people were no longer human. I had already resolved myself, but executing my plan would mean taking the children's parents away from them. I couldn't say I had no hesitation, but after witnessing such reality, there was no room for restraint. I approached Sophie, looked closely at her neck to confirm the marks, and began questioning Michael and Emily. These marks on their bodies, you're responsible for them, aren't you? So what if we are? It's like a show of affection, right? Proof of love from us, a love whip. So you admit it. Next, it seems you've been confining them to prevent them from seeing me. How do you explain that? What did you say? Emily glared at me, wondering how I knew. But I wasn't intimidated. Because I had strong allies by my side. Unfazed, I continued to press on with my words. So, you were restricting them, taking away their freedom. Is there a mistake in this fact? Who told you that? Don't answer a question with a question. I'm the one asking now. Emily must have been frustrated by my resolute demeanor. Her face was flushed, whether from the alcohol or anger, it was hard to tell, but she made her fury evident and began to hurl insults. It's none of your business. So what if we confine them? It's our right as parents to do what we want with our children. Outsiders should keep out. So, you admit to the confinement. Then, all the actions you've taken for that purpose were also deliberate. Old woman, what's with you, constantly attacking Emily? Well, I'm not just blaming Emily alone. Huh? Without showing any disturbance, I maintained my composure. If I failed, the grandchildren wouldn't be saved. Don't falter, I will definitely protect these children. Without showing any emotion, I kept up the pressure, as if I had returned to my active days, continuing to act confidently. And I continued the conversation without letting my guard down for even a millimeter. What a pathetic son. Are you really our child? You're nothing like your father. If your dad were here, he wouldn't let his wife handle this, he'd be the pillar of the family, holding everything together. Shut up. You're not even related by blood, so stop lecturing me. Indeed, Michael and I had no blood relation. Because Michael was my husband's child from a previous marriage. We never had our own children. So, who's the outsider still clinging to this adopted relationship? As long as you're my adopted child, you'll always be my child. No matter how much time passes. Isn't it natural for a child to be scolded by their parent? Then I'll gladly leave this behind. You're nothing to me, not family, not a parent, just a stranger. Got it? So stay out of our business. To cut ties with me as a parent, is that what you're saying? That's what I'm saying. Hearing this, I was certain of my victory and couldn't help but laugh out loud. The eldest son's family must have been confused by my reaction. They all stared at me in astonishment. Ignoring their reactions, I called Ethan. When I signaled him to come in, Ethan entered the living room with several bodyguards. What the? Who are you guys? Pleased to meet you, Michael. I am Ethan, serving as the butler to Miss Elizabeth. A butler? What's going on here? I'm terribly sorry, but we've recorded everything on video, audio included. We've also placed a camera in the lady's bag and captured your abusive behavior towards your children, so we're considering consulting the police. What did you say? Wait, just a minute. Don't you get it yet? My sister, who showed up just saying she was coming over, was dressed in dazzling clothes, reminiscent of a certain famous sister duo. With a look that seemed to say she thought they were poor, she looked down on the eldest son and his wife with a mocking laugh. If you don't have money, at least try to cultivate some class. That's all people like you can take pride in. My sister let out a flamboyant laugh. She's been watching too many dramas. It was almost unbearable to watch. Despite the seriousness of the situation, I couldn't help but smile at my sister's exaggerated character. You all were easily manipulated by Elizabeth's words, confessing to your own abuse and cutting ties with her. What? It was a ploy devised by me and my sister because the evidence and testimonies were too weak to protect these children by legal means alone. It turned out to be quite entertaining for me, a nice way to kill the time. Wait, I've seen this person somewhere before. Sophie, with tear stains on her cheeks, looked up at my sister. She probably recognized who my sister was. She must have seen her on TV before, as my sister made occasional appearances. Pleased by the recognition, my sister approached and gently patted her head. Oh dear, do you like wealthy people? I happen to run the Harrington Group and appear on TV. Pleased to make your acquaintance. I'm so happy to finally meet you all. My sister gently wiped away the tear stains as she spoke. Seeing this, Michael tried to take back his daughter, saying not to touch her, but he was stopped by our burly security personnel. Realizing he stood no chance against their size, Michael quieted down and abandoned his protest, leaving Emily to fuss. I then called the police. I reported the house disturbance and showed them the entire video. Emily desperately tried to defend herself, but I sealed their fate with my words. Please, I want to protect these children. I ask for your strict intervention. The seasoned police officer nodded firmly and took the resisting eldest son and his wife away. Understanding that their parents were gone, the grandchildren broke down in tears of relief and joy. Sophie must have been really scared all this time. She clung to her sister, who was beside her, and while crying louder than anyone else, she expressed her gratitude. Grandma. Thank you, really, truly thank you. Sweetie. I'm sorry for being late in saving you. Saying this, I hugged Jake, who continued to cry from the pain, and I too shed tears of relief that I could save them. Since then, the vile actions of the eldest son and his wife came to light, and they were successfully arrested. The harassment towards me was apparently out of jealousy, seeing that the grandchildren loved me more than them. The scars on the grandchildren's bodies also proved their guilt, and currently, the eldest son and his wife are serving time in prison. Worried that they might be released and return to their old ways, I decided to file for guardianship for the minors at the family court. Our excellent lawyer worked hard, and given the circumstances, it was highly likely we would win the case. Since then, I have been living happily with my grandchildren. Following my sister's suggestion, we moved out of the old house and are now all living together in my childhood home. Grandma, can you make us your children? The grandchildren asked in unison, requesting to be legally adopted. It might lead to another legal battle, but that doesn't matter. I want to protect my precious grandchildren. For their happiness, I can become a demon if necessary. I will continue to protect the grandchildren who give me the strength to live.